To get a full, efficient, meaningful climate change policy, we should be inclusive to all of the segments of the society, and without having gender consideration, without taking the marginal people in the policy, we cannot get an efficient climate policy. It's relevant for all the policies, not only climate change policies, and often our experiences reveals that the policies is ignorant about the differential vulnerability, differential needs of the women group, of the most vulnerable ones. So it is necessary to include women's differential vulnerability and to address their differential needs and accordingly set the policies. So without addressing the gender concerns, we cannot get a meaningful climate change policy. I'm involved in climate change activities back in home and at the global level actually. So back home I do research, and I'm involved in some action research, and also as a researcher from LDC I find myself as an activist as well, and I do campaign and work closely with policymakers. What I can learn from my research, from my findings, I have to feed up in the policies, and I have to link with those policies. And back home, we did some research on the vulnerability analysis in different geohydrophysical conditions in Bangladesh. We have reviewed some policy papers on climate change within gender lens. And we are advocating for the rights of female farmers under climate change. Food security will be a vital issue under climate change scenarios. And we are promoting gender-sensitive adaptation at community level. And we are promoting some sort of resource book or guidebooks, what is called gender-sensitive community-based adaptation. So primarily these are the concerns back in home. And at the global level, I am involved in negotiation process, in the COP process, and I am very much active in Gender CC. And Gender CC now being the focal point of women and gender constituency of UNFCCC process. We are involved in submitting different position papers at COPs at the UNFCCC level, and we are also critical to some of the market mechanisms. We think those are the false solution to market mechanisms sometimes give false solution to climate change issues. So we have our own positions on RED, we have our own positions on carbon offsetting, we have our own positions regarding financing and climate change. So these, and of course adaptation and mitigation. And we are very much keen to explore gender concerns in terms of mitigation, which is mostly overlooked, and you can find hardly any text on mitigation and gender that we are interested to look into, and what are the issues, how can we address mitigation concerns and gender concerns to be marched on. So these are certain things we are doing, and not only submitting or doing research at the international level, we also advocate and we also get involved with the activist groups which are involved in the COP process. So these are certain modalities that we are looking for at the national level as well as at the international level. There are two steps which is linked at the national level and at the global level. At the national level, we often say the development agencies give a priority of gender and climate change issues, but when it comes only one issue, then they often ignore the gender issues. So I think it's better to involve other gender groups who are very serious on gender issues, not only climate change issues, to involve them in this field and make them aware, for policy shifts and policy pushes. And I'm not ignoring the contribution from the developing agencies, but I am personally, I'm aware of the fact that often development agencies have their own agendas and own priorities, you know. So at the national level, I want to see the activism. And the most important thing is to do capacity building on climate change and gender issues. The linkages with climate change, with different issues, and how to integrate gender concerns in that. So it's very important to raise capacity building. Not only the NGOs, but within the government officials who are involved in decision making. So it is very important. And another thing at international level, you know, same for the capacity building, who are involved in these processes. Often, I don't think all of them understand fully the consequences and the terminologies of climate change, which is very important when you are going to negotiation and when we are talking about, you know, meaningfully talking about climate change issues. So capacity building, of course, and networking for common issues are very important, I think.